All right. So if you're doing your homework, which is sort of, the second part of this SwiftUI tutorial thing, which is chapter 3, we skipped chapter 2. Um, and so there are a few files that you need to make it work. So the first thing you can do, maybe the easiest option, you can download the project files here. And then once you have those downloaded uh, from, from the web, you'll get a folder like this, composing complex interfaces, which is the name of this section. And you can actually go to the starting point. And if you open this project, the starting point happens to be the completed part of the previous section, which was chapter 2, the one we skipped, which is about animating views. And they also have some custom views in the section there. So if you open this up, it's going to open that project, and you can basically then start your homework from here. This is obviously all code from Apple, but the new stuff that you write for this assignment is where you write your homework, or sorry, write your comments, which is what I'm looking at for your homework. And you can then see where the files are. So it's these hikes, these files. It is also the badges, and then it is this hike data, which is another JSON file. Now, on the other hand, though, if you want to use the existing project that you've been doing, that you did your previous homework on, it's totally understandable, and it kind of feels nice to write it yourself and to have a sense of completion. So if you want to do that, we can add the files that you need into that project. And it's pretty straightforward, but I'll just show you in case it's helpful. So what you do in that case, let's say this is your project, right? And so in this project, if we open up views, we don't have um, the views we need. In fact, they haven't even been organized at all yet. And this is just right an earlier step in the homework. So I basically gathered all the project files and sort of made them available. So if you download those from either Slack or Notion, you're going to get a zip file. And when you extract that, you're going to get a folder that looks like this. And so what you want to do is add these things sort of in their respective place. So inside the views here, you'll just want to drag these things over. So we can bring the hikes and just something like that. And you will, just like in, if you've been following this tutorial up to this point, you'll definitely want to, make sure there's copy items if needed, folder references is fine, and add to target landmark. So you just leave the default settings, and just make sure it's copied into this project, rather than the files just being in, your downloads folder, or wherever this is. So you'll say finish, and then that will get added. And we'll do the same with badges. Same thing. We can maybe move this once it's here, something like that, and you can see we have the necessary files. And then resources, we'll want to do the same thing. And so just adding this JSON data. And then the last thing is the app icon. Now, strictly speaking, you don't need an app icon, but it is kind of nice, and it's in chapter 2 when they have you add the app icon. So the way that works is, right, there's this assets folder, and so you've already added these photos by now, right? And they kind of explain the whole 1x, 2x, 3x thing, which has to do with retina screens, right? And so the ones they gave you are all 2x, and that works across most devices and that kind of thing. At the top, so there's accent color, but then there's app icon, and so it's going to be blank at this point. It's totally empty. And so there's a couple of ways that you can add this over. If you want, you can open, and so you see it has all of the, add them all over. With this open, it will actually, oh, maybe it won't. So you don't want to do this, right? Because this just adds a bunch of stuff. We don't want that. So what you can do, right, you have all these images. You can actually drag them over, but you have to do it one by one. So like this is 20 by 20. So you want to come over here and find, well, where is the 20 by 20, and you want to match it. If you don't match it, it'll still work, but it'll throw a warning, and it doesn't work right because these are all specific resolutions for different Apple devices. You can see this is iPad settings. So then we can do the next one, and then it'll get into the Retina, and so on and so forth. And it is a good idea to just be familiar with all the different sizes that make up app icons, just for iPhone and iPad. And even like the App Store, we can see is the big one, which is here at the bottom. Drag that in, but it's obviously pretty tedious. So the easiest thing to do is really to drag the whole folder in and replace the app icon image set. Then what you want to do, I guess, is drag the whole thing over. And so this just creates it right, and then this JSON is kind of telling it what it should be, and so you can see everything fits. But now you're going to have two, right? And to make sure that it's not confused, you will delete the empty one that you don't need, and then rename this to remove the one, and I don't like that. So that's, anyway, multiple ways you can do it, but that is one way. So what you can also do is come down here and click this little plus button. And you'll see the plus button, there's actually a couple of options, right? An image set will create an image like what you're already familiar with these basic images to define the different Retina settings. And you can see on the right, there's a bunch more settings that you can get into. Now, we're not going to get into that today, but I wanted to show you one thing. So if you click the plus, you can also come down here to iOS, and there's iOS app icon. And macOS, watchOS, same. They have these app icon features. So let's click that, and we can see it adds another app icon. But it looks a little different than the one we're used to, right? The one we had all these different sizes and images, and you notice that in the iOS it says all sizes. And this is Xcode 13 because this is from the Apple sample code, which was from the previous version of Xcode. There might be some minor differences in the all sizes since Apple may release new devices. Anyway, I'm not aware of any major differences, but in this new one we created, though, it's just one thing. So what's going on? Well, it says single size. And so this is a feature that you can just add one single size and it will get sort of automatically rendered for you at all the different sizes. So you'd think, well, that's great. Why don't I just do that? The problem is the quality will not be as good because of the way that they parse the images and create those smaller subsets. You still need all those smaller ones. It is still recommended and better to do them individually like this and use your photo or design app to export at the correct resolution. So in our app icon set, to change that, we would go here and we'd say all sizes. And then you can see that we get something more similar. And so macOS and watchOS is kind of similar, and this is how you'd create, right, app icons for all your devices for a multi-platform project. So for macOS, we would add all sizes, and then you could see below, see those iOS, but now we're on macOS. It has their own sizes that we have to consider. And there's some other nuances around macOS app icons that I could discuss if anyone's curious. And then watchOS, it also has a single size option, but then the all sizes. And if we scroll down, we see there's now a whole bunch of watchOS options. So you can see this is a lot, and this can be a lot of design work, but a lot of the good like Sketch and Figma have different exporting tools to at least somewhat automate this for you and get all the right resolutions for your app icons. Anyway, for our project, iOS is fine, the one they give us. So this new one that we were playing around with, we can delete that.